final two kits we have to put up are the mossed Viola kit and the scalloped Indigo Viola kit. I'm going to pot up the lilac one because they're both exactly the same technique and exactly the same care. So your lilac mossed Viola kit comes with this gorgeous sort of 12 centimetre scallop pot, not scallop pot, rib pot. It's one of our best sellers, as is the 10 centimetre scallop pot. So this is like quite an unusual, sort of taller pot. Again, one that always sells out, one of our best sellers too. So the pots mixed with the violas just look absolutely stunning. So in your kit, I should apologise for the fact that they are cutting the grasses outside the studio, so it's a little bit noisy, so I apologise. But we have in our kits, so the gravel, the compost, the moss, the pot and the plant, either the viola in the lilac or in the indigo, and then you will have your birch twigs and dried thyme to finish it off. Okay, so pop your pot onto your saucer and give your violas a really good drink. We'll go through care at the end, but the one thing to kind of note about violas is that they are really thirsty plants. So you're going to be looking at watering every couple of days. Add in your gravel into the base of your pot. You can add all of the gravel that's in your kit, and then add in a small amount of your compost. Again, you might not need all of the compost in your kit, but we're just kind of aiming to have it so that the viola sits just slightly above, like literally 5 millimeters above the rim of the pot. Okay, so now after we've added the compost in, you've given your violas a really good drink. You can gently take them out. You might find that they are quite root bound. Don't worry about this. You just need to kind of pinch out the roots with your fingers and just sort of snap them. It's absolutely fine. And then just sort of gently tease it out of its pot. And then you place that in the middle. Again, it's exactly the same for the Indigo Viola kit. And then we're just going to add in the rest of the compost around the gaps. Now you might find in your 10 centimetre, if you have the scalloped Indigo kit, you might not need to put any more compost around. There might not be the gap. So I usually give it sort of a little jiggle because it helps that compost go right down into the sort of gaps. So there's no air spaces. Again, just being really gentle with any kind of new buds that you can see around the base. Okay, and now we can start adding our moss. So in your kit you will have flat moss, which is this sort of carpet moss. It works beautifully sat on top of compost, just finishes plant potting beautifully. So we're just going to take little sections and just gently place that on top of the compost. So being really careful of any buds that you might see around the base. So just letting it fall over the sides if you want to. And then we're going to add in our dried birch and our dried thyme. So I personally don't like the twigs to be too high. I quite like them to be a little bit shorter, so it's completely up to you. Obviously with violas, it's not like the bulbs where they're going to shoot up. The violas are going to stay relatively low. So I'm not going to go too high, and I'm going to be really careful as I just sort of tuck those twigs into the compost. So I'm kind of cutting them down into sort of 4-inch lengths, and then I'll go shorter for some of them as well. And I'm sort of aiming around the edge of the plant and near the sort of rim of the pot, rather than going straight in and straight through. You can do that if you want to. I'll show you how, but you just need to be sort of quite careful. So I'm just going to take one of my birch twigs and I'm just going to sort of separate the leaves gently until I can see an obvious gap, and then I'm just going to pop it in there. I'm not going to push too hard, and I'm just going to leave it like that. So not sort of damaging any of the buds that are forming at the base. I'm now going to add in my dried thyme. Again, I have this shorter, so it's sort of closer to the base of the pot. Tucking that in. It just adds a lovely texture. And in terms of care, so as I mentioned, they are really thirsty plants. So they need to be watered quite often. And if you see it looking quite tired, it's probably because it's thirsty and needs more water. So I would be watering every 2 days. With the violas that I have at the moment in my kitchen, they're on a windowsill, so they like to be in as bright place as possible indoors. So put them on a windowsill if you can, or somewhere bright, and keep them damp. Now what I do find is that if mine do look tired, which does happen, I will fill up a bowl of water and I will sort of place the actual pot in that bowl of water and let it kind of sit there for a few hours, and I will allow that to then soak up all that moisture from the roots upwards. Obviously you can water from the top, making sure that you're watering the compost, not just sort of the moss that's on top. But please just be mindful that they are really thirsty and they just want their compost needs to be damp at all times. So you'll probably find that the technique of sticking the pot in a bowl of water for a few hours does the trick, probably better. So if it's looking tired, just keep that in mind. When your flowers go over, which they do, the sort of lifespan of the flowers is relatively short, and then it's replaced by a new bud and a new flower. You simply pinch them out. So I'm going to show you here. I mean, none of these have actually gone over, but we'll do one anyway. So you basically take your index finger and thumb, and you follow the faded flower all the way down to the sort of as far down to the base as you can get, and then you simply pinch and snip it out. And that's all you do. It's as simple as that. And what you will then find is you can see these little buds around. They will then start to grow and replace that flower. And that's how you look after it. So keeping them really nice and damp in a brighter place as possible, and snip out those flowers with your index finger and thumb when they fade. And that's about it. And it's exactly the same for the Indigo Scalloped kit. They're both the same technique and the same care. So there you have it. I hope you enjoy your Viola kits.